Want help to grow your business? Download Bryn, the world's first business advisor in your pocket. To find out more, visit bryn.ai or search the App Store today.
G'day, Nils Vesk from Innovate or Die. Welcome to this series where we're going to be looking at ways that you can bring commercial innovation to your organisation and your business for great commercial gain. So you might be thinking, innovate or die, what a serious topic. Well, the reality is, unless we're innovating, we're either competing on price or we're playing catch up, trying to chase our competitors as they go out and capture the market. And innovation is such a crucial key element that we all need in our businesses today. And when I've worked with organisations around the world, there's one common problem that I find, and that is that there are too few innovations and they're just too far apart. And the number one cause behind all of this is our biased perception. The bottom line is the way that we've been taught to think about innovation has skewed the way that we think about innovating and the ways that we can come up with new ideas. And that can either be a good thing or a bad thing. And in each one of our episodes, we're going to be unpacking a model called innovation archetypes. Because if we can understand the biases of the most amazing professional innovators and use their best principles, then we can use that to create great commercial gain in our own organizations. So let's quickly unpack each one of these archetypes and phases so you've got an idea of what we're going to be doing in each episode. And so we have universally 4 phases of innovation when it comes to it. We've got the investigation phase, ideation, iteration, and commercialization. The investigation phase is all about looking for insights as to where we should be applying our thinking to generate brilliant ideas. The ideation phase is all about coming up with lots and lots of great ideas. And then this iteration phase is all about testing, piloting and prototyping our ideas so we can minimize the risk while increasing our certainty. And finally, we've got the commercialization phase. This is all about taking our idea, building it, and then selling it to the masses so we can get a good commercial return. And each one of our episodes, we're going to unpack one of these expert archetypes so we can borrow and model them to get some great commercial results. So let's get ready to rock, innovate or die. G'day, welcome to Innovate or Die. Our episode today is all about how to innovate like a designer to create insatiable desire. Now, I really, really love designers. Well, I guess I'm a little bit biased, and that's because I'm a designer by training. And my career as a professional designer used to be involved in all kinds of crazy projects, from designing the interiors of museums to theme parks and new cities and all kinds of interesting things. But there's some incredible value that we can have by innovating like a designer. And there are 3, I guess, sort of mindsets that the designer goes through in many different ways. One is they're thinking about sensitivity to what our customers and our clients might be looking for, stretching the realms of possibility of what's been done before and what we could be doing tomorrow. And finally, really defining what this whole concept of beauty is, making things so beautiful that people just can't resist the urge to go out there and buy it. And if we were to look at 3 commercial reasons why we really want to go out there and innovate like a designer, the first one really comes down to the fact that if we can have great design, we can improve our impact that we get with our clients. Basically, good design works. The second commercial principle that we want to think about is that design principles really do work. And that is that it's been proven that using good design skills can improve appeal and improve the quality of a product or even a service. And the third commercial reason why we want to innovate, essentially like a designer, is that if we want to create a desired response, we simply create a desired design. So we design for the response that we want to get. So if we want a customer or a client to feel excited, we design our product or our service to create excitement. If we want our customer or our client to feel, let's say, regretful, or to get them to think about the past and to think that way, then we simply design the inputs to make that happen. Now, if you're wondering who might be a classic example of a designer, I think you just can't go past someone like Miuccia Prada. Now, if you're not Italian, Miuccia Prada is one of the CEOs of the fashion house Prada. And why Prada is such a classic, I guess, design example is a number of different reasons. The first one is the incredible amount of desire that Prada managed to create. The second reason would be probably that Miuccia Prada actually didn't study design. She's actually got a PhD in political science. She always had a fascination for aesthetics and took that desire when she started to work in her family's leather fashion house, and then she started to apply that design thinking to handbag design. And then she became the lead handbag designer, and then they started to apply design principles to their stores. So much so that the desire that they can create in their stores has led to Prada being the second most successful retail store in the world. Number one is Apple, but Prada, second place, not a bad position to be. And how they do that is really consider what is it that's going to emotionally create desire for people who want to go and buy handbags or shoes or whatever else that it might be wearing. And part of that comes down to the placement of their stores and the design of their stores. If you actually spend time walking through one of those, yep, you've got to go past your burly security guard wearing some Armani suit. But the actual room is designed in a space where you've got these cabinets, museum cabinets that are more exciting and better designed than you'd see in the Museum of Modern Art in New York. That's how you create insatiable desire. Another good example of a designer, if you're thinking about a poster child, would be someone like Jonathan Ives. Now, Jonathan Ives is the head product designer at Apple and has been involved in countless projects, from their first iPods and iPads to the latest notebooks and things like that. And the whole focus that Jonathan Ives has led at Apple is getting them to think about creating amazing design that creates great impact. I think Ives once said that it's easy to make something new, but to actually make something better takes a lot more thinking. So let's delve into the realms and the mind of a designer to see how we can think a bit more to come up with some innovative results. And the first space and place I want to talk to you today is about this whole concept of designing great experiences. And you might think, well, isn't a designer just someone who's going to design a product, whether it's a computer or some sort of piece of object or designing things? A good way to think about this is to think of someone like an architect. When an architect goes out to create a space and a place, they actually think about experiences. Probably the best example of this would be something like, I guess you could call it, the entrance to a building. Now, if you'd actually break that word down, entrance, it actually means entrance, to entrance. So when a designer or an architect or an interior designer thinks about things, they don't think about necessarily the form to start with, they think about the actual experiences of what things people are going to experience as they go through a building. And this is one of the first spaces and places that we can start to think of as a designer. And what designers use when it comes to this designing great experiences is they often start with a functional diagram. And I might have shared this if you've watched one of the episodes where we speak about innovating like an engineer. And one of the concepts is to create functional diagrams. And so if you were to, say, for example, design a building, some of the things that you would start with is to think of all of these different components or the functions of the building. Maybe there's going to be an entrance. If I was designing a retail store, I might think about looking about some sort of merchandise sort of display area where I'm sort of showing things to the people on the street. Perhaps this is a path where people are walking forwards and backwards, and they might sort of stand there and look through the store and look at different areas there. On the other side, I might want to have some sort of, retail sort of checkout counter part. I might want to create some sort of experience where they come in and I want them to be awed by looking at some sort of central feature over here. This might be some sort of the latest and greatest product or fashion that's just come out. In this area here, maybe I'm looking at some sort of change room up the back of the house here. It might be our change room. I might look at different things here where I might look at sort of, call this impulse buys, where it's something nice and close just when they're getting to make a purchase up there. Here it might be some sort of I don't know, let's say take-home package type stuff. And so what a designer does is they just start to go through functionally looking at different spaces of how a layout might happen in a building. And from that, once they've got those functions down, they then start to actually come back later on other diagrams and start to look at forms and shapes that they might think about with their building. And this essentially is how architects and designers really start to work. And there is a mantra that architects and designers use, and that is that form follows function. So we always try and think about what is the function that we want to do. So let's take that to another space and place, designing great experiences. And I guess one of the ways that you can think about this is what's a tool or a way that you can do this? And I use and really encourage our clients when we work with customers and different organizations is to understand that anything can be an experience. You could think of them as touch points that a customer might experience, or it might be even when someone goes to a website or they're checking out, there's hundreds and hundreds of touch points that people are experiencing. And so what I often suggest is to start by looking at mapping out those touch points one at a time. So let me give you a commercial example. I was working with a international we'll just call them a surf retailer, very, very successful global brand. And one of the things I did, remember, I don't know if you've ever seen those little spy cameras that you can put on a pen and sort of stick it in my top pocket. And I went through this whole one of their retail stores, and I mapped, after I'd reviewed the footage and in my mind, I think it was 225 individual touch points, everything from, the arrival point, looking at the store windows, the entrance, going through, going over the threshold, the first point of view, the counter experience, the change room experience. There was, well over 200 different individual touch points there. And what I encourage all of our customers and our clients to do is to look at something like this, where you actually storyboard what that experience might be. Now, storyboarding is a concept that I guess you'd probably say has been borrowed originally from the film industry. And if you think about what a film is made up, or a television show, is they have shots. And each shot is made up by a number of different stories or experiences. And when we think about how our customer or our clients are experiencing us, whether it's on a store, face-to-face in a meeting or whatever it might be, or even running an event, we can break them down to individual touch points and individual experiences. So whenever we work with our clients, whenever we're even running, say, a workshop or an intervention, we look at each one of these little storyboards, a step-by-step of how an event is going to happen. When we work with our clients, looking at perhaps, say, for example, a sales meeting experience, we map out touch point by touch point by touch point on what that's going to look like and how that's going to feel. The more we can do that, the more you can control the impact and the response that you're getting from your clients and your customers. Again, if you want them to feel a certain way, design it by designing the experience that you have. And this might sound sort of simple, but I can guarantee you very, very few organizations design experience as well. And you may have heard of there's more and more organizations where they've got your CXO, which is your Chief Experience Officer. Because if someone has a bad experience, they're going to tell a lot of people about it. And if they've had a great experience, they're also going to share it and say, wow, that place rocks. So make sure you think about how you can design your experiences. So what else can we do? I guess something that's really mindful of doing, next technique, is something I'm really excited about. It's called the elimination technique. And I learnt this a number of years ago when I was an urban designer. Way back then, it was probably the early 1990s. I was young, dumb, and
To continue enjoying this presentation, download Bryn, the world's first business advisor in your pocket. To find out more, visit bryn.ai or search the App Store today.